I've seen things kind of deteriorate over the last few years. Bad actors that have been in leadership roles in the current administration, even though we're nonpartisan, very clearly states that he is a Democrat. So he literally targeted those precincts and called them out on his social media. It went viral. It was actually crazy. The council meeting probably had 150 people that were there that came, Jews and non-Jews, to speak against. How dare you do that? That's not fair to our community, to democracy in general.
Good morning and welcome to Jew in the City Speaks with your host, Allison Josephs, also known as Jew in the City. The Jewish world has been mourning, or most of the Jewish world, I should say, mourning the win of Zohar Mamdani, the newly elected mayor of New York City. Already he's putting together teams that seem to be very anti-Israel. People are definitely worried. But in the midst of this very highly talked about election, there was an election that was happening that not so many people, at least in the New York area, knew about. And we got some pleasant mayoral news recently, which is that Michele Weiss, an Orthodox Jewish woman, was elected the mayor of University Heights, a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. And to our knowledge, she is the first Orthodox Jewish woman ever elected to be a mayor in the United States. So something to celebrate. And I'm so thrilled to invite Michele to join us here today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I guess before you got into politics, because I knew you kind of from another, place and identity before that, you have a background in education. So can you tell us a little bit about your professional background before you got into politics?
So I'm I'm an accountant by profession. I've been working as the head of the finance department in Hebrew Academy of Cleveland the last many years. But one of my passion projects is myself and two other partners founded where you know us from, called Amatz Initiative, which is an educational organization which concentrates on the Beis Yaakovs. We felt that the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Jewish pride was lacking a little bit in the schools, and we really wanted to bring that to the forefront. And we work now with over 350 Beis Yaakovs throughout the world. We have a WhatsApp chat. We just created a Sheish Mitzvahs to Medias curriculum, and we're seeing really great strides in that.
So just to translate that for our listeners who may not know all of that inside lingo, the program that you founded works with some of the more right-wing girls' schools in the Haredi or ultra-Orthodox world, known as Beis Yaakov. From our perspective as an organization, because we deal with, in our Makom branch, people that had less positive experience in some of these schools, and in our Tikun branch are looking for sort of behind-the-scenes ways to make an observant life more meaningful, more safe, more enjoyable, really to have it be what it's meant to be. Your Amatz initiative, trying to make the schools have more pride and a more positive and spiritual experience for these young women is incredible work. And, we know what it's like to do systemic work in the community. And I would say the great news is that there's a lot of people that are happy to partner with us. I'm sure you found the same thing, that want to do the right thing. There are bad apples in every system, and sometimes those can feel like the most prominent or the things that kind of like stick the most. And for people that have experienced the behavior or actions of some of those bad apples, it's deeply painful. At the same time, there are great initiatives like yours where there are people saying we can do better than this. We can make school a meaningful and positive and proud experience and really live up to what Jewish values say. Okay, so I thought that you were a person of two careers, but you seem to like to just do a lot of different things. And to just clarify, are you yourself a product of the Beis Yaakov system? Did you grow up in the Orthodox community and in the more right-wing circles?
So actually, I became frum in high school through NCSY, which is an Orthodox youth movement. I have the ability to kind of flow from, non-observant, non-Jewish people to, more white Orthodox Haredi people, as you mentioned. So it's kind of a unique ability. Not everybody can do that. And I think that's why really like my relationship building and success in the political arena has flourished.
That's great. No, I feel similarly. I became observant in high school, and I feel like I can understand a variety of perspectives, and I know what my life and perspective was like when I was less observant. While I'm not, part of the Haredi circles, I certainly have a lot of experience in those places with a lot of the good and also some of the challenging pieces. And so I try to look at every space I'm in with like the nuance and the humanity that every diverse space deserves to be seen with. But at the same time, when a person has kind of lived in different communities and had different experiences, I think there is kind of a bird's eye view or sort of an understanding that people that may be in a more secular or more, religious bubble where they may not be able to see or understand the other side with the same types of depth. So, okay, so that makes perfect sense. Okay, so you're a person that has grown in your own observance and changed like that, and you love a bunch of different careers. So, what about accounting? So, you continue to work in accounting, but then like the Amatz initiative was kind of like a side project or sort of like a passion project. Would that be correct?
Yeah, so it was very much a passion project. I met my two partners on Feld's Chizuk mission, which takes religious women to Israel, a few times a year. And we really, the three of us felt like this organic experience could work in the schools, where we really get down to the foundations of why, we choose this lifestyle and how beautiful it is. And the schools are wonderful in general. They really are. And especially the principals put all of themselves into their work. But we really felt that this connection to God, and making, your life a God-centered existence was so important. So we used a lot of the foundation is really from Rabbi Weinberger from Esha Torah. That's a lot of our foundational premise. But yeah, we've had a lot of success for that. But it was a passion project at a time in my life where, I had the time, and I really feel everybody is put on this earth to make a positive impact. So that was kind of the beginning.
This is, and some of us maybe more than one positive impact in your case. And just to clarify, I think unknowing your organization, I think for a lot of people that are less observant and choose a more observant life, there are programs and initiatives out there to show them the meaning behind, why a more observant life might be worth it, or, something meaningful to embrace. Whereas for some people that are raised more observantly from the start, it's sometimes done by rote. It's sometimes kind of like, this is what you do, this is what expected. And there's not the same sense of like, maybe you need to sell the customer a little bit about like why this is a meaningful project that, or product that you won't just take because someone told you to, but that you would want to actively choose. And ultimately, there's a basic Jewish foundational idea that everybody has free will and that God endowed us with free will. And to give someone reasons that they would want to choose to embrace or continue to embrace an observant life, I think is a really empowering thing, because then you have the material and the information that you can, not just do the thing because maybe you think it's right or because maybe people will expect you to, but rather because it speaks to you sincerely. So you've been involved in the Amatz initiative for several years, because I remember when it launched. So then where did this like political piece come from? Like, did you always think of, like, people have said to me, run for politics, and I'm like, no way, like never in a million years. And I see like I could potentially have some of the qualities because you need to be well-spoken and have a presence. And so I get that, but I don't know, the world of politics really scares me. So did you always have an interest in politics? Was there a moment that called you and you said, it's time to step up?
Yeah, so when my kids were a little older, I actually went back to school for my MBA. And that program specifically dealt with leadership, besides all of the business aspects. And at that point, one of my actually non-Jewish colleagues, said, why don't you start getting involved in the city a little bit, and kind of gave me a path I was an observer, which reported out to the different cities, and then I was on the finance committee. And at that time, the Jewish community in Cleveland was really growing. It's boomed over the last 10 years. And we needed a voice. There was one frum person on council, at that one Orthodox person on council at that point. And we needed an advocate. There are so many things. Local politics really is something very tangible that all of us actually don't realize and take for granted, but it really affects us much more than national or state politics. Our garbage, our safety, our roads, our homes. And for, Orthodox Jews, some people need larger houses they need to add on. We need to feel safe where we are. And these are real everyday things that can really affect us.
I think a lot of people might hear that it's a good thing to get involved locally and add your voice. But I think a lot of people have the assumption, well, it's theoretically a good thing, but not me. I'm too busy. I already have my first and second and third career and a family. So what is it that, and just to, I guess, give some context, Jew in the City essentially has three organizations inside of it, potentially even four, because we have our initial social media arm. Then we founded our Makom branch for former and questioning Haredi Jews looking to find a positive place in Judaism. Then we founded the Tikun branch to work on problems behind the scenes. And then we got into Hollywood and we're doing Hollywood advocacy. So I may have this problem myself, but what I guess I would say at least the stuff that I do involves celebrities and some cool things. It's a little bit kind of like grunt work to be involved in local politics like this. So what motivates you to roll up your sleeves and say, it'll be me?
I think it really is just something that I grew up with, that people can make a difference. And that's really, as I mentioned before, that's really God placed us on this earth to make a positive impact and to be, it's called the Keter to be an example for the rest of the world. And that's something that I really lead with. And I've seen things kind of deteriorate over the last few years, just with, undercurrents of anti-Semitism and, just bad actors that have been in leadership roles. And, I know what my strengths are. I think family is first. Everybody needs to realize that, not everybody can do what I'm doing, but I do feel that, everyone can make a difference in whichever area that they feel that they have their strengths in.
So I started off the segment talking about Mamdani and sort of the fears that, New Yorkers are having about that win. And we know obviously anti-Semitism is rising everywhere. And, I would say anybody that has their anti-Semitism antenna up is kind of getting that, spidey sense of the vibe's not good around here. What have you guys been experiencing locally? I think I've seen some maybe restaurant vandalization, or I feel like I saw some kind of attacks that got publicized sort of to the larger community coming out of Cleveland. And just to clarify to our listeners, you're the mayor of one of the Cleveland suburbs. So what's it been like there?
Sure. So just to also put in perspective, so University Heights, it has the largest contingent of Orthodox Jews in the state of Ohio. There are three other suburbs that have a pretty large chunk also, but we have the largest, and we're all pretty close to each other. So a couple of things. One is Cleveland is very fortunate. Our Jewish Federation of Cleveland, which is honestly probably the best federation in all of the United States, has their own security force. So they actually help secure every Jewish agency in the city. There's 80,000 Jews that live in Cleveland. Our police force works very closely with the Jewish Federation. So there are many instances where, I know things could have happened but didn't, just because everybody was very much on top of it. But especially, before the election, there's a current administration that really kind of targeted the Jewish community. And we have to be vigilant. We have to also not back away. And, we are very lucky as Jews that, especially if you're religious, we are accountable to something. We have rules that we follow. And some people might say, oh, why should I do that? I want to do whatever I want. But when you have accountability, you actually have more respect for yourself. That's the way that I view it. You can't do anything you want. There are, parameters, and ethics is one of those, which is very close to me. But definitely undercurrents, but that's everywhere, unfortunately, in the country.
Are you being purposely vague about the current administration and kind of what they did to the Jewish community? Is there anything you can go into in terms of specifics? Because I guess have there been attacks as well? Because I feel like I've seen, or did I not see? It was maybe another city. Like, have you guys had like vandalizing and people getting attacked like on the street looking visibly Jewish?
So there haven't been any obvious attacks, or like physical attacks. There were some, very much, I would say, vandalism, but I think
Okay.
that's kind of, unfortunately everywhere. No physical attacks, though. In terms of the current administration, though, there were a couple very obvious kind of charges. I honestly, we're nonpartisan. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, but where the Orthodox Jews live in the last presidential election, those precincts very heavily voted for Trump. And we are a very Northeast Ohio, which is where Cleveland is a very blue area. And the current administration, even though we're nonpartisan, very clearly states that he is a Democrat. So he literally targeted those precincts and called them out on his social media. It went viral. It was actually crazy. The council meeting probably had 150 people that were there that came, Jews and non-Jews, to speak against, how dare you do that? That's not fair to our community, to democracy in general. That was one thing. We also have some issues with shuls and with places of worship, houses of worship, and homes right now. And those have very much been under scrutiny.
Mm-hmm. It feels like a different set of rules for the Jews as opposed to everybody else. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right. And so what does it take so when did you decide to run? When did you get this idea that maybe I could be mayor?
So actually, it wasn't really on my radar. The current mayor said he's not running for a third term. We have term limits, so 3 terms. And, the city council and I, we're pretty close, and we speak just in general about a lot of different issues. And we were kind of thinking like who would be qualified to be the next mayor and really lead the city. And, I started contemplating it. I spoke to my family. I spoke to, the place that I work. I still have responsibilities here. And that's kind of when I decided to do it. And I had the backing of, you can't just win with a Jewish vote. You have to win with everybody. So it's a lot of hard work. In my city, you have to knock on doors. So you go to every single house.
Wow.
And it takes months and months. But
So when did you decide to do this?
so I decided in March. I made an announcement. And then, the election was in November.
And did you have to raise money?
Yeah. So this was I've raised money in my last campaigns, but this was significantly different. I had a digital marketer. I had a kind of a team that was helping me. It was a very different experience.
Do you feel like local politics is maybe, what's the word I want to use? I just feel like in Washington, the politics just seems like it's all a bunch of crazy people. Like our choices are like crazy and crazier. And is maybe like the local politics a little bit more down to earth, a little bit like less ego or like egomaniacs or.
So it used to be in my city, at least. The last 2 elections were not. And I think that was also just the antagonistic nature of the current administration. I've run 4 campaigns at this point. 3 times I've been elected to city council, and I ran for mayor. This is the first time where a Democrat and a Republican, those tags were pitted against each other. And again, you have to remember we're nonpartisan, but the angst in the country and the rhetoric in the country is just so difficult right now. I've never had doors slammed in my face. I had doors slammed in my face this time around. And it's not fair because most people are moderate and they're in the middle. It's the fringes on the outside that are the ones with the loud voices. But it definitely has trickled down, unfortunately.
So do you have any like sort of your top plans for the new administration? Kind of like what are you hoping to accomplish in
Sure.
your.
So, I mean, the first thing is actually what I've been speaking about is kind of unifying the city again. We're nonpartisan. You shouldn't have this angst with the Democrats and Republicans. So I have a plan to kind of unify the city, a series of discoveries where we have different cultures, ethnicities, races come in and to kind of talk about their culture and how we can have civil discourse, which is, wow. So I think that would be really great. My city is very, very diverse. I think there's like 17 ethnicities, which is great. I mean, and we're a bedroom community. Everyone knows each other. Your neighbors become your family because there's so many homes. There's also, we need new facilities. You have infrastructure, all those kind of boring things that every city needs. But, we don't have a lot of commercials, so we have to really be creative in how we fund the city.
Do you have any messages to, maybe young Orthodox women that might, because I think, probably in every community there are certain jobs that are sort of more done and expected. I think, any slice of life and any neighborhood you grow up in, whether it's more blue collar here and it's more professional there, more business owner there. I think within Orthodox female circles, there are sort of the stereotypical jobs. And accounting already is like a little bit outside that. And MBA is even beyond that. And now, like, being the first mayor beyond that. Do you have any message to young Orthodox women about, because I know like what I'm doing is like a pretty weird thing. Any message to young Orthodox women about, why it might make sense to kind of like stretch the boundaries of like what the norm is?
Listen, first of all, I think women are just in general much more organized, much more kind of out of the box thinkers. Like, we do a fabulous job at whatever we do. And we have to multitask, which, a lot of men don't need to do in their daily lives. I think there definitely is a sense that, women, shouldn't necessarily, take on these like large in your face leadership roles. But I think it's a very personal decision, and you definitely have to ask your rabbi and be comfortable with what you're doing. But, I think that it's accessible to anyone. You need to do it again with being an example, a Kiddush Hashem to other people, trying to do it in a humble and a modest way, which I also always kind of try to keep, in the forefront. But you do have to realize also, like, your family needs to come first. It's very difficult to do this when you have little children.
Mhm.
I know for myself, I wouldn't be able to do it. But as you have older children at this point also, like, they need you more when they get older.
Well,
Act.
I was making a wedding and planning like a major event at Lincoln Center last year, and that was like, oh, this is a lot going on all at once. And there's a way that a mother is involved in things like planning their daughter's wedding that, even the most involved father, and my husband is very involved. It's just a different set of expectations, I think, in every culture.
Yeah.
What Jewish values drive you to do the work that you're doing, to have the attitude that you have?
Yeah, so a lot of what I spoke about before, really being an example for the Jewish people is very, very important. I need to be respectful to people. I need to make sure that like my actions, whatever I do, are, will this put you on the front page of the paper, kind of? You don't want that. That's never good. So, modesty, being humble, being a servant leader, these are all Jewish concepts, and they are just adapted to this role that I'm in right now. Leading with integrity, leading with character. These are things that are so ingrained to me and so important to me that I really hope other people see it. I'll just give you a quick anecdote. So, I'm this Orthodox woman in this non-Jewish environment, and I have to tell you, so like, I don't swear, I dress a certain way, whatever. I don't even have to say a word. My colleagues, they just act much more respectful in front of me than they might in other areas, in other situations. And like, if they swear like by accident, they'll apologize to me. I have never told them one thing. I've never said anything. It's just kind of, people respect you.
Mhm. Yeah, if your values are clear and you conduct yourself in a certain way, I think people respect people that know who they are. I was going to add a couple other sources in a place where there's no man, strive to be one. I definitely think about that source from Ethics of the Fathers, Pirkei Avos, when I hear you, that you see the opening and you think like, why not me? And that's certainly been a motivation for me jumping into the different things that I've done in my career. I've seen the vacuum of leadership and the need that needs to be filled, and have seen, like, I think my talents and strengths could match the need that the community has. So why not me? And the other thing, lo alecha hamilcha ligmor, that, to recognize that just because it seems like a big task to complete doesn't mean that we're allowed to desist from trying. What I'm definitely getting from this conversation is that you see the task ahead, and you feel like it's time for you to kind of jump into the ring and get started, even if you will not be able to finish all the work. So it's a really beautiful example that you're leading with, and I hope your story will inspire all types of listeners that are listening today, because these are obviously universal messages, and we definitely have some, I would say, some scary times ahead for the New Yorkers here and what we're looking to. And but I guess we'll turn our sights towards Cleveland to look for hope. And I love your message of bringing different groups together and unity, because that's also such a Jewish idea that we're all God's children, we're all created in the image of God, and that we should see the dignity and divine spark within one another. So you're breaking down stereotypes. You're doing an awesome job, and we just wish you continued hatzlacha, success in all that you do.
Thank you so much, and thanks for this opportunity.
Yeah, and let us know when you're onto your fourth career. We'd love to profile that too. And you can catch us same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.